on some television shows. I started watching the show called Domino Day. I love like witchy shows, and that one's been interesting and fun. And then I've also been watching The Boys, which is like basically like a superhero show that's making fun of Marvel. It's pretty terrible, but it's kind of funny if you think about like not really funny, it's kind of sad when you think about the similarities of real world stuff. But anyways, I was watching that. I don't know if you've seen either one of those shows. Both were on Prime. Let's see if comments are working. Just go ahead and let me know. Oh, hey, no, we're just getting started. I actually started a minute or two late, so I just got here. So you are good. Well, I'll go ahead and dive in. So, as I was saying, I have been with Pure Romance for like three years now. And when I started with Pure Romance, I was really told to never share my personal experiences, to only share, hey, this is what a customer has told me, or, but never like actually getting into anything about like the details of my story and how I got here. And through like over the time, I've really learned that people want to know more about my story and my experience, and so that's what I'm going to share with you guys tonight. I think it can be helpful because I didn't start here, and so I want to really help remove any shame that people may have about wherever you may be in your own personal journey to your sexual confidence. And it's not like a journey where you like get to a certain point and there's no more work to be done, because it's an ongoing process in becoming more confident and owning who you are and loving yourself without shame. And there are some areas in my life where I still struggle with that, but I've definitely improved a ton over the years. Like a lot of people, I actually first learned about my body and sexual health from an American Girl book and a PE video that said abstinence was the only way. I don't know if anyone else is in Texas, if you got this. I'm 30, how old am I? 32. I'm going to be 33 next month in August. But you may, if you're in Texas, you might have gotten the same video, or maybe in another state, you might have had a similar experience or talk, but no one ever told us what sex actually was. We never really learned anything about like the anatomy. Like it was really brief and mostly was like, this is bad. So when I got my first menstrual cycle, and I'm curious too, did anyone else have, like, did you read the American Girl book that was like about puberty? And it also was like some self-care stuff in there too. Maybe that's why I'm so big on self-care now. I don't know. But and were you taught any sexual health? And did you have like more of a like a strict abstinence only kind of speech, or did you have more of a like more guidance, I guess? I'm curious to know. I did not know anything. So when I first got my menstrual cycle, most of my friends had already had theirs. I was like 14. So I knew like to expect it, but I was clueless about my body when it came to an attempt to use a tampon. I thought it went inside the clitoris, which that does not work. I don't know if anyone else has funny stories about your first time using a tampon, but I didn't even know there was another hole besides where I pooped. So I was just really clueless. And then when I started to explore my sexuality, I grew up with divorced parents. Half my weekends was with an authoritarian Christian father, and then the other time was basically with the opposite parenting style with my mother. And so I had a lot of confusion about what was okay and what was not okay. And so I had a lot of shame came with that when it came to my body and what I was taught based on One, like the Christianity side of thing and being super religious. And then two, what I was seeing based on actions. And what I really thought and learned, hey, Jamie, was that I was basically what I was learned through the world is that my body was for men, and that was the only way to explore, which is far from the truth, but that was what I learned. So, and it's actually super common. I'm sure that there's probably a lot of other people on here that the first time you learned about your body and pleasure was through probably another person. And what's interesting, especially for women, that's more common, but it's not as common for men or people with penises. So they're more likely to explore their self first before with someone else. And for women, it's the complete opposite. And I wonder if it has to do, at least for me, it was with a lot of the shame that came through my body, and that, oh, this is only for my future husband, or having that kind of mentality, and not, which now I've really shifted to understand that's not the case. My body is for me, and I get to choose if I want to enjoy my time with someone else. Now, as you can imagine, because I had this mindset, I didn't know, nor did I have any healthy relationships with romantic or sexual partners. And I was also told I would go to hell for not having a hetero relationship. So I am bisexual. I don't know if everybody knows that in the group. So I kind of grew up with thinking that I was going to go to hell. And so I was very scared of, one, like exploring my body, but like never even thought that I would even have an attraction to women, because I just was like, that's not something that's possible, right? That's not because that's what I was taught. Until I came into my truth and I realized, who I am. But because of my history, when I first got introduced to a vibrator, it was actually a gift that was given to me. And my first reaction was that it was weird. Like me. Now I'm like all about vibrators. But when I was first introduced to them, I thought it was weird. I never even used the first one, didn't get used. It went around with me from like apartment to apartment, just rolling around. It wasn't used unless I was with my partner. And even then it was penetration based. So I was enjoying myself and I felt pleasure. But I had no idea that I was even missing something. Like, I was like, oh, this is great. This is great. I didn't know that anything was missing and that I actually didn't have an orgasm for many, many years. I didn't learn until a lot later, and I was like in my, a lot later in life, that I'm part of the 85+% of vulva owners that needs clitoral stimulation to orgasm. So if you're in that bunch, you are not alone. A friend actually suggested to me, she's like, you need to get this high-end vibrator, try it, just put on your clitoris, girl, until you finish the show. And so I was like, all right, I'll give it a go. It was so weird. And I honestly was not a big fan at first, but everyone was like telling me that it was weird that I didn't play my own heart. So I was like, I felt weird about it. I had all this shame. I didn't want to touch myself. It was a weird thing. But then everyone else was like, no, it's weird that you don't do that. And I'm like, oh, I guess I need to do this. So for me, when I first had my first experience with a vibrator, it was like a checkbox that I was trying to check, because like, oh, everyone else is doing this, I'm supposed to do this. All right, check, I did it. All right, cool. It actually took years, and I actually stayed loyal to this luxury brand of vibrators for a very long time. But when I started with Pure Romance, I was skeptical. I knew they had good products, but I was a little bit skeptical if the quality would measure up to what I was used to experiencing. And I was surprised that it did. And the prices are actually way more reasonable with Pure Romance, and the quality was like on par, like pretty comparable with what I used before. So over the years, I've worked in therapy, and I've also worked with a sex therapist to work through a lot of the shame that I felt when it came to my body and the sexual encounters that I experienced over my life. And then there are some things too that I'm still working through. So, you know, some things I'm not really ready to talk about, but I'll save that for when I'm ready and I'll share more with you. One thing though that was the most mind-blowing to me was learning about the 6 principles of sexual health. When I first learned about that, I was just like mind blown. Actually, let me pull it up. I'll share them with you. I don't know, has anyone heard of the 6 principles of sexual health before? So when I was working with my sex therapist, she shared like these with me. And for people that have, I guess, like healthier relationships, this is probably going to be common knowledge for you, but I never experienced that. So this was mind-blowing to me. So the 6 principles of sexual health is 1, consent. So everyone has the right to say yes or no, and it's important to get consent before engaging, and always respect someone's decision if they say no. That should be self-explanatory, right? Non-exploitation. Sexual act is number 2. Sexual activity should never be used to manipulate or control someone. It is important to treat all sexual partners with respect and dignity. That one feels really good. Like, hey, yes, we should all be respectful. It shouldn't be used to manipulate and control. And the 3rd is honesty. So it's important to be honest with your sexual partners about your sexual history, STI status, and other relevant information. So that should be talked about before you're intimate with someone. Shared values is number 4. So it's important to have shared values with your sexual partners about things like monogamy, safe sex, and abortion. This will help to ensure that you're both on the same page and that you're comfortable with each other's expectations. Number 5 is mutual pleasure. Mutual pleasure, that's the thing, right? I did not know that, but this is what I finally learned. So sexual activity should be enjoyable for both partners. It's important to communicate with your partner about what you like, you don't like, and what you're willing to experiment. And 6 is protection. It's important to use protection every time you have sex, even if you're in a monogamous relationship. This will help to protect you from STIs and unplanned pregnancy. So those are the 6 principles of sexual health. And the first time I learned them, I was mind blown. I did not realize that these were the bases and these were things that I had not really had in the majority of my sexual encounters for a very long time. And so working with the sex therapist really helped me to understand this, work through a lot of the shame that I was carrying. And then along with being in with Pure Romance, it also helped me debunk a lot of the myths, hey Esther, that I grew up with as well. So one being like toys are like only supposed to be used with a partner, and it's like cheating if you're not using it with your partner, or if you're using it without them. No, that is totally not true. You should be exploring your body and use whatever tools that you feel are necessary and that work for you. I also thought that the vagina would get looser with more partners. Thank gosh, that's not true, because your girl would be loosey-goosey over here. But it's a muscle, and you know, as you get older, that's why you need to be doing your Kegels, because your pelvic floor, it does change. But it's not going to be because of the number of partners you've had. You could be with the same person multiple times and it's not going to change. It's the same thing if you're with multiple people. So that is not a thing. And then another misconception that I was told was that like lubricant is only for old people. Not true. Everyone should be using lubricant. Like when I was younger, you could do literally anything and I'd be like excited, ready to go. But as I age, it definitely takes a lot more effort. And then like along with me aging, I also started taking antidepressants as well. And I definitely felt a lot of shame having to ask or pause with partners and say, hey, I need some lubrication. But since becoming educated about lubricants, it's really helped me to become more empowered, to know like there's no shame in using lubricant. And if a partner says otherwise, that's not the partner for me, right? I don't know if anyone else has ever experienced that and felt shame for having to ask or need to use for a lubricant. And I'm sorry if that happened, because there really should not be any shame when it comes to lubricant, because we all should be using it to keep our pH in balance, protect against micro tears, and because it also increases pleasure, which we all deserve all of the pleasure. So I finally feel like I'm in a good place in terms of self-love and acceptance, but I know there's way more for me to learn along the way. Therapy has been an amazing tool for me in the process in learning to give myself more self-compassion. I am very, very critical. My inner talk is very, very critical. And so therapy has really helped me with being more compassionate towards myself, and having that shame be much quieter in my mind. Pure Romance has definitely been instrumental in helping me to incorporate sexual wellness into my self-care routine as well. Because when you think about self-care, sexual health isn't something that people usually have as top of mind, but it really should be. It should be incorporated into part of our regular self-care routine. So I really hope that you all loved learning a little bit more about my story. Give me some hearts, or let me know if you did down below. This is how I got started into where I am today. So regardless of where you are in your journey, we all started at some place, and we learn along the way, right? So it's just really important that we're learning about our bodies from ourselves so that we're able to communicate to others what our needs are. So if you have any questions, I'm always here. And if you'd like more help in starting to build your confidence, you can go to my website and get my free workbook that goes through 5 steps that have really helped me in starting to build confidence. Once you complete the workbook, you're not going to just be magically a more confident person, but it will help you to practice and build up those skills, because confidence isn't something that you're just born with. It's something that you grow over time and that you work towards. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this chat, and hope you have a great rest of your day.